Christopher Durang, playwright of Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike. And I went to high school. I went to two high schools, both Catholic, Del Barton School in Morristown and Union Catholic Boys School in Scotch Plains, both New Jersey. Weirdly, I went for the first part and the last part at Del Barton because I got a scholarship back there. Partially because I wrote a couple of plays that they put on.
In high school? You got a scholarship as a playwright even in high school?
I did.
Pretty impressive. And I'm David Hyde Pierce, and I'm an actor and a director. And I went to the Saratoga Springs Public High School in upstate New York State.
I had a lot of access to theater. My mother loved theater and went to it, and eventually we went to Paper Mill Playhouse in Millburn, which still exists, and we were like an hour from New York, and so as I got like 9 or 10, I was taken to my first Broadway show and stuff. But the schools often had productions, and so when I wrote this play that Del Barton did, the next year I was actually very excited to be cast in a play I didn't write. And it was about a soldier it was sort of a comedy, but a soldier who had a bit of a nervous breakdown and wasn't, well anyway, I really liked doing that. And then also my mother did what I think was a wise thing. She insisted when I was 14 that I go to the summer school at the public school and learn typing. And I'm glad I did. It was really good. But at the same time, I took a singing class, which was mostly singing, but was performing, and we also did some sketches. And I remember directing one of the sketches. So I feel like I did have a lot of access.
And I had an amazing arts program in the school where I grew up. Great music program, very sophisticated orchestra and chorus and drama program, and we did plays, we did musicals. It was really not only important because it's what I ended up going on to do, but also for all the kids who didn't end up going into the business. It's just, your life is so much richer because you have all these different ways to experience your life, and also you're given access to different ways to express what's going on in your life. And to me, I think that's the most important thing about arts in the schools, because kids are so often in trouble, and especially junior high school, just the worst years. And when we take away all of these tools that we have to express how we're feeling, or to see in a play maybe someone else going through what you're going through, you really deprive kids of an opportunity to survive and find ways to cope with what they're going through. And those are tools that I think all of us use. I can give one great example from this play, which is, so there's a phone call in this play where a person in her 50s, an older person, is on the phone, and she never has any dates, she never goes out, anything. And on this phone call, suddenly this man that she met at a party is actually asking her out for the first time. And she can't believe it, and she really doesn't know how to deal with it. And the phone call is a lot about what she's going to do. And when we were doing our first production in Princeton, there was a high school matinee, and high school students watching this. And there's young people in this play, and we expected the students would identify with the young people and not identify with us older people. Well, you could have heard a pin drop during that phone call, because every kid in that audience had been in that situation of hoping someone would call, or being afraid that they wouldn't, or being not good enough or not popular, all that stuff. And I thought, wow, that's how powerful and how important the arts are, and giving kids access to the arts. Well, I mean, I think it's funny you talk about career skills. You took a typing course, which it turns out as a writer was a pretty good career skill. I know that, like, when I was in junior high school, I think it was, or maybe early high school, it was sort of before I didn't really identify myself as an actor. I sort of acted for fun, but that didn't happen until much later in my life. But I remember taking a public speaking course. I didn't take it in order to become a public speaker. There was something in it that I knew I wanted to do, and I ended up getting up and doing speeches from Shakespeare. But of course, those kinds of skills, getting up on stage and talking in front of people and getting over your nervousness, working together to build something, whether it's in an orchestra or a play, or all that stuff is worth its weight in gold. I mean, Maestro Dudamel with the LA Phil, his whole program of taking student musicians and giving them a life and a career in music that they couldn't possibly have envisioned. I don't know. Those are just sort of life skills, I think, that are useful whether you end up being in the arts or not.
Because he said all that good stuff, I actually feel more articulate about it than I did a second ago. You know, I think that, say you're in a play in high school or even younger, and you do, well, for one thing, you have to get up in front of people, and for another, you do have to work together, and there's a completion to it too, which is a follow through and completion. And I left out, by the way, that in grammar school, the nun who ran the school, Sister Margaret, for some reason loved musicals, and so the entire school would put on a show, a variety show with musicals, and well, not just musicals, but singing. But so I, when I was 7, sang "I'm an Old Cow Hand." but anyway, following. But it's really, most people in high school who end up being in plays really love getting the friendships and you're trying to do the same thing together, making it work. So I do think that those skills are very good, and follow through is also very important.